And it's not just the molestations. I mean, if it were just one vice, I feel like we could give them a pass. For me, it was these fundraisers they'd have us do every year. They would, and I'm not making this up, they would hand us every year a cardboard suitcase full of trinkets to sell door to door to strangers. And if we sold enough, they would give us a pair of aviator sunglasses. Because that's what third graders need. Sexy eyewear, you know. And so I carried this box, it's like the size of my body. The church was like my knick-knack pimp, you know. Like I'd walk up and I'd be like, hello, I'm from St. Mary's School. Perhaps you would like to buy a Daffy Duck pencil sharpener or a polar bear pot holder. And they'd be like, you know, we're eating dinner right now. And I'd be like, oh, I'm so sorry, you know. And then, but I wouldn't know what to do, so I'd just walk right into their home and just open up shop. I'd just be like, perhaps you would like a desk set organizer or a popcorn of the month club. I don't know what the things were. And they would be like, please leave our home. So it starts putting the stuff back in, but it never fit in the way they'd initially placed it in. So I'm kind of smushing it on top of itself and scissor holding the whole thing together and apologizing, like, I'm so sorry, I'll be out of your way in just a minute. And that's why I'm angry at the Catholic Church. So I didn't even get my sunglasses. And I'm going to go to the Vatican this year. I'm going to be like, where are my damn sunglasses? They're going to be confused. But it's a strange organization. I mean, I went to Catholic college as well. I did the program. And they crazy rules in Catholic colleges. They wouldn't sell condoms on campus, which was to teach us a lesson to save up for the abortion. Because that can be a pricey fix. No, I'm kidding. Hey, I'm a jokester. Hey, no, it seems like a crazy rule. I mean, you put a bunch of 19-year-olds in a dorm together, they're not going to be like, I guess since we don't have condoms, we'll just play Pictionary. Does anybody have any pogs? I like those pogs. No, they're going to have sex with each other because that's what college is for. It's where dorks go to have sex with other dorks. That's what it was for me. And I think for you. If you're at my show. Yeah, I'm right. I know it. I knew it. I love being home on my couch, but I travel for my job. I do this in sometimes 100 cities in a year, which is more cities than there are. Some of them are just an Applebee's with a dream. And I love the shows, but the travel can be rigorous. Often when I return home, I'm entirely empty, just bones and garbage and Diet Coke all strung together by those plastic ringlets that bind sodas and strangled ducks, and I collapse on the couch and I say to my wife, I say, Chloe, her name's Jen, Chloe, leave me by the side of the road. But she doesn't. She revives me. Jen has a soft, sweet voice. It has a thread count of 600. It always seems like she's telling you a secret, like, I'm gonna make tea. I'm like, I won't tell anyone. So we'll lie on the couch, and she'll order me a chicken kebab platter and scratch my back, and we'll snuggle with our cat, Mazzy, and watch a documentary about murder. And that's what love is. And it all takes place on the couch.
In October of 2012, I'm doing a show in Boston. I'm staying with my brother Joe. My brother Joe used to be so cool. And then he had 2 kids. And now he's a loser. No, he's not a loser. I will say, like, it's just less fun to visit his house. Like, I'm trudging through the living room and there's crap all over the floor. I'm trying to eat breakfast at the kitchen table and I realize there's one of those sticky yogurt pouch containers underneath me and the table's filled with wet Cheerios and sippy cups and Aquaphor, and Joe's trying to show me this video of his son, but his son is sitting right there. And I'm like, I got Henry live. I don't need Henry on tape. And the video itself, underwhelming. You know, like, this is a 12-minute video of Henry picking apples. I'm like, nobody wants to see that. There's so much great content out there. I mean, I was on YouTube, I saw a 90-second video of a cat giving another cat a massage. Don't waste my time with Henry picking apples. And as I'm watching this, actual Henry starts whacking me in the eye with this foam bat. And I'm like, what game is this? And my brother does nothing. He's like a world wrestling referee. Like, I don't know. He's not supposed to do that. And so I don't know what to do. I hide in the bathroom and I'm trying to pee, but they have the child-proof circle inside the circle, like a carnival peeing game that I'm losing badly. And then Henry pushes in the door. Now I'm peeing into the wall, which has pee on it already. And then I lock the door. I'm standing in Joe's bathroom for 15 minutes doing no activity other than avoiding his family. And I pull out my phone. I'm looking up things going on in town that night. I walk out. I go, Joe, we should see this band at the Paradise. He says, I can't go to a concert, Mike. I have kids. And I said, sorry. And he says, don't apologize. It's the most joy I've ever experienced. Congratulations on your ambiguous tone. And so we don't go out. We stay home and watch these Baby Einstein videos, which have yielded no geniuses to my knowledge. There was nothing about the theory of relativity in the one I saw. It was a pig playing a xylophone, and then a dog barks, and a lady's voice goes, pillow. And then my nephew spits yogurt on his shirt, and my brother's like, he's a genius. And I'm like, I'm not seeing it, but I fall asleep around 7:30 p.m. because being around children makes me want to be unconscious at all times. And then I'm wide awake around 4:15 a.m. with this fierce cold from sleeping in this Petri dish house and this ringing foam bath headache, and I hobble onto a 6:30 a.m. flight, and sure enough, there's a baby across the aisle screaming at the top of his lungs. And in that moment, I can't defend this, but in that moment, I remember thinking, that baby doesn't need to be anywhere. You know what I mean by that? Like I can't even begin to defend it. It's just how I felt. I was like, it doesn't know it lives in Boston. It doesn't know what New York City is. I'm wearing noise-canceling headphones, which apparently are not enough. You need baby-canceling headphones, which are condoms, I guess. But look, I think we got to get babies off planes. I feel like we got rid of smoking in the 80s. We can get rid of babies now, or bring back smoking and get these babies some cigarettes, because they're so stressed out. And so I land at JFK, I take a cab to our apartment, I collapse on our beloved couch, and it hugs me. Jen gets me some mint tea and some hot and sour soup, and I say, Chloe, people with kids are miserable. And look, maybe I have a low tolerance for children because I've lost a lot of great friends to kids. So I don't know if it was the blinding combination of chlorine and urine or the jungle of eye-level genitalia or the 175-year-old man desperately trying to ease the friction between his scrotum and his inner thigh, but I remember thinking, I will never return to the YMCA pool. So I explained this to my cardiologist. At this point, it was nightfall. We were roasting marshmallows over a burning file cabinet. I said, I don't want to go into all the details, but I actually do not enjoy swimming. She said, I think you might want to reconsider that. You know, it's a great sport for people your age, good for increasing lung capacity. I go, yeah, I just don't think it's something I'm going to do. And she goes, do you happen to live near a YMCA pool? I said, I do. I live a few blocks from the Brooklyn YMCA, but I just can't picture myself going there. And she said, I think it might be for the best if you went to the YMCA pool. I said, I think I'm not going to do it. It's for the best. And then I'm heading home on the subway to Brooklyn, and I'm experiencing this shortness of breath that I sometimes have from anxiety. I've had this since I was a kid. It's this feeling where sometimes when I get anxious, I feel like I can't catch my breath, and sometimes it's so bad I feel like I might pass out. I had this when I was really little. Like I remember being in the passenger seat of my dad's car when I was a kid, and I'm experiencing this shortness of breath, and he looks over and he goes, why are you breathing like that? Which is always helpful. I find when you're experiencing a physical difficulty for someone to scold you until it goes away. I'm sure that won't manifest itself later in life. But I'm experiencing it on the subway home from my doctor, thinking about my dad and my grandfather. My grandfather actually worked in the subway tunnels in New York. You know, he was an electrician, and in the 30s they would blow up dynamite in these tunnels, and they'd send the electricians in. They'd be the first ones in to light up these dark tunnels. It was a very dangerous job. And then after that, he worked at a bodega in Bushwick, and supposedly one day one of his regular customers came in and said, how's it going, Joe? And he just keeled over the counter and died. Which is sad. But it's also a pretty funny response if you think about it. In some ways, he was the original comedian of the family. That's an extraordinary level of commitment. But I think about him a lot, you know, because I never met him. You know, I live here in New York, and I never met my grandfather. I always wish I had. And then when I was 19 years old, I was in my college dorm, and I get a call from my mom, and she said, Dad collapsed on the living room floor, and she called 911. They rushed him to Mass General Hospital, and I get off the phone, I tell my roommate, Danny, and you know how sometimes you think you're okay until you relay the same piece of information you've been told to somebody else. And then in the middle of the sentence, my voice just collapses into tears. And I borrow a friend's car, and I drive 400 miles straight to Boston. I see my dad in his hospital bed. They'd saved his life. They did an emergency angioplasty. They put a metal stent into one of his coronary arteries. But he's all beat up. I mean, he's attached to machines and wires, and I feel like we don't choose what we remember from our own lives, but there are two things I remember from that day. And the first is that it was the first time I saw my dad as a person. And the second is that when I left visiting hours, I didn't say I love you to my dad. I wanted to. We're not an I love you family. We say, take care. It's okay for you to laugh at that, because it's not the same at all. It's actually not even that similar. It's an unusual substitution, because first of all, it doesn't have the word love in it. Second of all, it's sort of a passive-aggressive command. Like I'm gonna need you to do something for me. Take care, you know what I mean? And tried to reverse this like in subtle ways over the years. Like one year for Mother's Day, I called my mom. I go, Mom, I really appreciate you. And it was silent on the other end for a few moments. And then she said, bye now. So I get off at my subway stop in Brooklyn. I walk to my apartment where I live with my wife, Jenny, and our daughter, Una, who was 3 years old at the time, which is an amazing age. But if you have a child that young, you know that your apartment becomes what would happen if you had a rave at a bakery. You know, it's just sparkles and glow sticks and bubble makers, and everyone's like, do you have water? And all kinds of arts and crafts. We paint all over the walls because it's a rental, and there's like dinosaurs and people. It's like a creationism museum. And that day, Jenny and Una were making these beaded bracelets, and Una made me this one. She goes, Dad, it says silly. It's to remind you to be silly. And I was like, thank God. And I think we all do need a reminder sometimes. And Jenny pulls me aside. She goes, Mo. She calls me Mo. I call her Chloe. There's no real story. She goes, Mo, how did it go at the doctor? And I go, well, the pulmonary test said I was having a heart attack. And then the doctor said he didn't think I was. So